Here on WEVD New York.
Guten Morgen. Dus letztlich Lilian Lux. Ich bringe euch heint ein neues gewöhnliches Programm. In der Zeit, wo sich letztlich wird der Programm filmiert von einer Gesellschaft von Yisroel, welche gräten sie ein Dokumentar wegen der Bורשטיין-Mischbuche. Und wir heben nun mit dem Kopf in unserer Mischbuche Pesachke Bורשטיין. Geboren Pesach, geheißen Pesach und weg von der Welt, Pesachzeit in 1986.
Was der Mann an sich also wie so gewesen echten. Ich bin entlassen von der Heim. Verlost hat der Mama mit der jüdischen Truppe. Sie spielen jüdisch Theater.
Kommt zu mir, sei bereit, kommt rein, kommt rein. Kommt zu mir, sei bereit, kommt rein, kommt rein. Kommt zu mir, sei bereit, kommt rein, kommt rein.
Leumere, ein schöner Heim.
Wer ist die Frau?
Was? Das Tasse wird hier schon geben. Sie die Komödianten bis hierher weisen mir.
In those days, to be a Yiddish actor was worse than to be, a goy.
Dann tat es der Komödiant. Dann seid ihr gewesen ein Komödiant. Es war mal die Masselstimme mit den Komödianten.
My grandfather was an Orthodox Jew. And for his son to become an actor was terrible.
Aber sie wollen nicht kennen Spiel mit mir.
Komödiant? Das ist auf der Häusen.
Entlaufen von daheim ist zu 15 Jahren. Zusammen mit der jüdischen Truppe. Ein Schauspieler mit dem Namen Podlubne, welcher hat dem Jüngel ausgelernt bei Geneve 3 Lieder. Und einer von die 3 Lieder hat gesungen sein ganzes Leben.
Ihr geh weg, ich find mein Mann und you. Ihr geh weg, ich find mein Karl und you. Oh, ich werde in der Welt rein.
My father never saw his father again. He saw his mother one more time in Warsaw, about 4 years later. And then they were killed in a pogrom in Russia, my grandparents. And from that moment on, he was a Yiddish actor.
A Komödiant a jeder kann mir geben und Kleider, Burbe zu schieben, a jeder damals Bratjager schreibt mir euch mir, du hast den Wein. Die Schande jeder Minute, es wird versnappt jetzt mein Blick in den Streit.
Und dann hat durchgelebt die erste Weltbuchungen, läufendig von Stutz zu Stutt. Wenn die Russen nochmal ausgetrieben, die Polacken, die Deutschen nochmal ausgetrieben, die Litwiner, sich herimgeschleppt mit verschiedenen Truppes, in Hinger, in Kält, in Sturms, in Blottes, in gebracht Frieden, Gelächter zu den erschlugenen Jiden immer drin.
Hey, Henry! Da! Siehst du? Telegrammen!
Im Jahr 1923 hat der berühmte Boris Tomaszewski in New York gehört von Pesach Bורשטיין und ihn gebracht in Amerika, direkt auf Broadway, in sein Nora Bayes Theater.
50, 60 years ago on this street, you couldn't pass through with so many people, so many crowds on 2nd Avenue. You had 5 Yiddish theaters alone. You had the Art Theater there on 12th Street, and then you had 1, 2, 3 more over here, and one on Clinton Street, Lower East Side, which was the vaudeville house. When they brought him in America the first time, it was a little before my time, and he was a sensation on the street, a real sensation. He was what you call a real Yiddish star.
Auf sich reingedreht, ich halt nicht heut. Auf sich reingedreht, bedreht denn sich heut. Auf sich reingedreht, in Amerika gekommen. Im Baumais hatten sein geliebte Züge.
I had trouble.
I'm a girl from the South.
I'm in the movies. Was ist
Oh, yeah, labor.
Oh, yeah, you sind das hier. Wow.
You look gorgeous.
I had to go into
Isn't she gorgeous? All throughout the whole world, she looks gorgeous.
The immigration was a fresh immigration. People came to the theater not only to see a play, but to see a landsman. So they knew that Saturday they used to get dressed and gepished with the hats, and I think they went to the theater. It was a happening. It was an occasion to see this one and that one, and to meet and this, and to see a show.
The same people came every Friday night. It was their seat, so one man had the nerve to take away a lady's seat, but he didn't last long. She had a pot of water with her, you know, and she said, "This is my seat, geht da weg." He says, "Nein, ich will sitzen du." She says, "Oh no." Boom, with the water right in his face.
They used to live with the show, you know, they used to participate in the show. I remember once I said, I played also, you know, a bad girl. In the end of the show, I said, "Ja, Pinje," it was with Isokveld, "Pinje, wie sollen gehen? Where shall I go?" So one of the others said, "Der rein."
There was a certain actress, a terrible actress, that played Anne Frank, you know, and she was so bad, I don't want to mention her name, you know, and when the Nazis came on, so the audience yelled out, "She's upstairs in the attic."
It's human power, folks. There it is, whistling. That was his whistling.
I remember vividly the first time I saw him. One of the old palace theaters with cherubs and molding and golden sconces on the wall. He stepped to the front of the stage. Everybody else was expecting this clearly because they knew he whistled. But I didn't know, I've been trying all my life to whistle. I didn't know anybody could whistle like that. He stepped to the front of the stage and all of a sudden, like a bird, this little guy had all these sounds coming out of him. People went nuts.
Wenn Pesachke hat bekommen einen Kontrakt auf 20 Jahre mit Columbia Records, ist ihm in der Tugois gekommen allein singen Sonny Boy. Al Jolson hat geendigt und Pesachke ist allein und gesingen dasselbe Lied auf Jiddisch, Sindele meins. Sonny Boy.
Yeah, I need for you to it's on Pesach, Burston, Lily and Lux with their twins.
Sindele meins. No.
No, that's not the right tape. Right?
All right, I gotta come in. What happened was, you know, he had a first marriage, and it was not a match. She was a woman who wanted only to live with her mother and father, and he didn't want to. So he came home from the theater the night before he had to go to sing Sonny Boy, Zindelemein's. And his son was 2 years old, and he was very much in love, a little baby. He loved the child. And he came home and came up in the apartment and found it empty, with a note on the table, "I cannot be without my mother." She was young and she was foolish. And he had to go the next day to sing. Fleind will mich verlassen, sollen sie mich verlassen, abidi bis mit mir, Sindele meins.
Ein Freund will mich verlassen, sollen sie mich verlassen.
The second chorus is recitation, and he's crying. This is Pesach 78 that he recorded for Columbia for 20 years. Odessa Mama, the Polish Chassene. A Chassene bei Jeden ist der Chamechaye. Da hat sa Mama Pirba, hat sa Pirba za. Fitidricha. Mike sings this song too. Fitidricha. He used to do 2-3 records a week. And he was supposed to get 2 cents aside from the entire world, which he never collected from Columbia. First, they claimed that they went into bankruptcy and they became CBS. Then they went into bankruptcy, they became something else. And they sold so many in France and in England and Romania, in Argentina. All over the world, they sold his records. And he didn't receive royalties. I love him.
Here we are, we're entering the famous halls of the Hebrew Actors Union. And of course, we go back a very long time. You know, this union was created in 1900 before all the other unions in America. This is memorabilia of some of the greats of the Yiddish theater.
Dienstag, dem 7. April 1935. Die ganze jüdische Theatermischproche ist versammelt, auszehren die Proben von der neuen Schauspieler. Der Geist und die Bäuer und Pioniere von dem jüdischen Theater schwebt über den Saal.
Well, you just couldn't come in and say I'm an actor and give me a job or so. So they made auditions, which was very, very interesting.
Sehr klingt 2. Die Proben heben sich an. Der Präsident annonziert die neuen Kandidaten.
Der erste Kandidat zu machen Probe ist Vera Rodanka.
The auditions in the union was a very brutal, terrifying, miserable, awful thing to take an actor and to audition for his peers.
It was for the whole audience. You have to show them, show me, you know, just show me. And they came like with a messer, you know, just with a knife.
They voted yes or no. You had to have more yeses than no's in order to get in.
Ein geht stimmen. Der Girl von der jungen Schauspieler liegt in seiner Hand. Sina Goldstein ist Freiler. Sie wird sicher geben ein Yes.
There were groups, there were cliques that decided if you're going to go in or if you're not going to go in. And Pesach was what they'd call a buff comedian. Other people, other buffs, were afraid of their jobs, so they would gang up and they would say, give him a no, give him a no, give him a no. And when they told you, give a no, you gave a no.
Die Proben vergändigt mit zähl die Stimmen. Yes, 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 yes. No, no, no.
They threw him out once. They voted him out.
Yeah, many of the great actors were voted out. And some of the smaller ones were voted in.
Maurice Schwartz was thrown out the first time. Stella Adler fainted on that stage. It was murderous.
It was mafia. Mafia.
There was 300 members sitting there. I think I got about 175 yeses and 25 nos.
I had 4 no's.
I went in with 1 no, and I knew who gave me the no.
I went in without any no's, all yeses.
Go by New York, Israel. Weil länger du zu bleiben, ist es gut nicht bequem.
Pesach Kerl ausgefuhren in der Welt. Paris, London, Belgien, ganz Polen. Und in 1937 ist zurückgekommen kein New York. Und dann ist das geschehen.
Leib ich dir gedenken, bis dein Herz rein zu mir.
When I met Pesach, even though we were so many years difference between us, 22 years, I was a youngster, and he had already gone through a war and lived his life, and he was, like you say, a Lebejung, but it was a bescherte Sache. He was going in with a new show with the Caaamædianט, and he engaged me. And so I played opposite him, and it was like an instant attraction.
Mina and Ben Bonus, they were partners in the theater and then they got married.
Boschik, he met Reisel. She was a performer galore.
Galina and Perelman, they played together for a season or 2 or 3, and then they got married.
And Lipgott and Liliana, they made the debut in Warsaw. They met. She was pretty, young and beautiful, and so he was handsome, young and so why not?
He told me he has an engagement to go back, return to Buenos Aires, and he's looking for a partner. In Buenos Aires bin ich geworden die Partnerin von Pesach Bורשטיין und allein gestempelt geworden als a Star. We played in Uruguay and in Brazil, and meanwhile we fell in love. And meanwhile I saw I'm becoming what I wanted to become. And so I called my parents and I told them, I'm not coming home, I'm getting married. And I'm going to Europe. It was 1939. On the ship, I'll never forget, it was Christmas, and the captain said to Pesach, he says, I didn't see you people in church. He didn't know what, he says, well, my wife doesn't feel good. But I came up, I said, look, we are Jewish. We are Jewish actors. He heard actors, he said, there was no entertainment on the ship. He said, please, will you give a Christmas concert for the passengers? So we put together English and Russian and then. And what do you think happened? The next day we came up on deck. A half a ship turned that was Jewish. We were traveling with the company. We came back from Krakow, we passed through a few towns, we played, and we came back into Lodz.
Mazel
Chassan and Shtetl, he had to play every year when he came. There wasn't a Jew in Lodz and in Warsaw who didn't know to sing the whole Chassan and Shtetl.
זה סיפור של בן של רב, שבאמת מתפתה יום אחד ומופיע על הבמה עם שחקני יידיש. וזה מתגלה לרב ולמשפחה, והרב מגרש אותו מהבית. זה היה שלו, רכוש שלו, הוא קנה את זה, כתבו את זה עבורו. והוא עמד להציג את זה, אם אני לא טועה, בלמברג. אחרי הסיבוב שהוא עשה באזור מסוים, הוא היה צריך להגיע לאזור אחר בפולין, ופתאום הגיעו אליו שמועות שמציגים את ההצגה.
There was an actor, Ben-Zion Wittler. And Wittler had a bad habit. When American actors came to Poland, he immediately stole their shows.
בתיאטרון יידיש אף פעם לא חילקו את הטקסטים המלאים לכל השחקנים. אבא אף פעם לא רצה שיהיה לכל אחד את הטקסט המלא, שלא יגנבו לו את ההצגות. היום זה כבר לא מקובל, נותנים את הטקסט לכולם, אבל אז אף אחד לא ידע מה השני צריך להגיד.
As Pesach was playing a Chassan and Shtetl in Warsaw or in Lodz, Wittler was playing it in Bialystok. He changed the name. He called it Yosselis Chassane. And he went to Riga with it. We could not go to Riga because we couldn't play this show. Pesach was he never spoke to him in his life. Oh, he never spoke to him. So this was a sore spot in our lives. How did Wittler get a Chassan and Shtetl?
היה לי שם בביאליסטוק בין אנשי תיאטרון. הייתי אז בן 12. ידעו שקיים דבר פלאי בעיר. הצעיר הזה אשר מסתובב מאחורי הקלעים בתיאטרון פלס, מספיק שיראה הצגה פעם אחת, ולמחרת יגיד אותה בעל פה, מההתחלה ועד הסוף. פנו אליי אז איזה שני אנשים ואמרו לי, ישראל, ויטלר, בן-ציון ויטלר, נמצא עכשיו בריגה, והוא היה רוצה להשיג את הטקסט של השלאגר הזה, של חסן אשתדל. אז אולי אתה מוכן לשכתב לו את הטקסט הזה? תקבל 500 זלוטס. הון תועפות. בליל שישי עזבתי את הבית והלכתי לתיאטרון לראות את ההצגה הראשונה של חסן אשתדל. ולמחרת ידעתי את הטקסט בעל פה. שכתבתי את הטקסט, כתבתי אותו, מסרתי, שולמו לי, והאפיזודה הזאת נשכחה מליבי לחלוטין.
ואבא כל חייו היה מספר שהוא היה רוצה לפגוש את המנוול הזה שגנב לו את ההצגה.
We had a contract to open in Warsaw at the Scala Theater for the season of 1939-40. Pesach tried to talk me in, we should stay. He said, why are you worried? If there'll be a war, it'll be like in the First War. In Lodz will be prosperity. But I urged him to buy tickets. So we went to the steamship line. We went in, and he said, I'd like reservation for 2 people. So they said, you and who else? There isn't a place on any ship, and the Pilsudski is leaving Tuesday. Pesach heard Pilsudski, he said, oh, I made 3 trips on the Pilsudski. I know the captain, I know the chief steward. Well, if you know people on the ship, he says, go to Gdynia, take a chance, maybe you'll get on. And this can only happen like in a dream. This saved us. When we arrived to Gdynia, we walked right into the arms of the chief steward of the Pilsudski. Panie Bורשטיינס, so pantulobjes. What are you doing here? He says, want to go home, he says, with my wife, and we have no reservations. He says, don't worry, for you there'll be place. And how could we thank them? We gave a concert. The 1st of September, we gave this concert, and the captain waited until we finished. It was evening. Then he went up on the stage, and he announced in Polish that the Germans had occupied Poland.
Then all of a sudden, the Bורshtineins finally decided to have children, the two of them. And they always did things in the big way. She delivered twins.
When we knew that I was pregnant, Pesach got frightened. He was very scared. He said, Lily, how can we have a baby? We didn't know we're going to have two. He says, how are we going to travel? How are we going to play? What are we going to do? I said, Pesach kid, look at the people that have no children. There is Aaron Lebedov and his wife. They sit here every day and every night because they haven't got where to go, to whom to go. I said, we'll have children, we'll have grandchildren, we'll have whom to go to when we get older. And I talked him into it. Dem 1. Juli 1945, Motterle in Sisale, 2 Maluchenloch sind allein in unser Leben. Come, I'll show you. That was the entrance. There was a canopy out there. The very top floor, all the windows all around. It's just like when we lived there. And right here on this corner was the carriage of Michael and Susan. And the Nana used to stand here and get the sun with them, like this. And Aaron Lebedov used to pass by. And used to teach him Romania. All these things to do, bum, 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 bum. Right here on this corner. All the actors used to pass by and know that the twins were here in the sun. They would stop by to see the children.
Zimba, hey-diddly-dum, Zimba, hey-diddly-dum. Ice is up a higher, grass a kenizai. Fire for the meeting is the Romanish wine.
When they were 2 years old, Susie says to me, "Wenn will mir wieder spielen?" I said, "Ihr seid kleine Kinder, ihr spielt euch kein Theater." So she says to me, just like this with her hands on her hips, she says, "You and die in der Tate sind schon alte Akteuren. Das Publikum will sehen frisch blit." When she said that to me, Mike and ich, wir sind die Jinge. And when she said that, I said, "Really? Is that so?" "The Wäsche sitzen in daheim." I said.
Chavale, chavale, gib a bis, du Seppele von Bäumele is zu Kelsey. So they said, she's going to be an actress.
Yes, this Wunderkind, that's what they used to call me.
I could sing, I could carry a tune, I could dance, and when it came to a dramatic part, I played it, so they called me the Wunderkind.
When I was 9 years old, the attraction was when the wedding was on stage, see? All of a sudden, a spotlight hits the box seat in the theater, and a little kid of 9 years old would sing "Oh, Promise Me" with a soprano voice. I was that kid, and I got $1 a performance.
My father's friends wanted to surprise him. It was Christmas, and it was a matinee at the National Theater in New York.
So Pesach played a role where he took off a beard with an elastic and came back and sang a song.
So they put a beard on me and a top hat, a cylinder, and they said, "Go to Daddy." And I walked out on stage.
And Pesach was singing, the audience was laughing, and he got frightened. He didn't know what was wrong with him. Finally,
and he looked at me and he said,
"Who are you?"
I said, "I'm Santa Claus."
He says, "What do you want to do, Santa Claus?"
He says, "I want to sing."
He says, "What do you want to sing?"
I said, "Hot mama pir batota."
He says, "Hot mama pir batota."
Hot mama pir batota, holy cap, and I ran off.
Well, nobody could stop a show like that. The audience was howling because everybody knew about the twins.
Somebody got up in the first row and threw a silver dollar, a coin, on the stage, and he said, "Keep that, little boy. Someday you're going to be like your father."
In a few weeks after that, Susan saw this ventriloquist, this woman who worked with us, and another one, and she began to talk with her mouth closed. So we bought her a dummy. Yeah.
Susie, who will so sein, mein Weibel, will
סלח לנו אבינו כי חטאנו מחל לנו כי פשענו כי מוחסו וסולח אתה ברוך אתה ויחננו.
I don't have vivid memories of being on stage, and what I remember is just seeing a sea of darkness. You go out on stage and there's just darkness out there, and you know that everybody's looking at you. I was the youngest ventriloquist in the world, and so they always put me, out with my dummy, Jerry. And so I had an act. I had to do this act with Jerry. In a way, it was easier. I felt that it was Jerry who was the spotlight, not me.
In Paris, we were on Télé Paris. They called us back on the phone, and they said, Mademoiselle Bourtin? Mademoiselle Bourtin? I thought they wanted me to come back. No, they wanted the little girl with the dummy.
A song of love is a sad song. And Jerry would go, hi-the-lee, hi-low.
And so it was one of the biggest shows, Transi Chandelle. And after she finished, Jean Noir, I think was his name, he was the editor of the Paris Soir. He put his hand on her head, and for television he says to everybody in French, he says, "This is the wonder child of the world."
Susie, who will so sein, mein Weibel, bist schön, in sieh's noch wie a Teibel. Kenn mein Liebe nicht ein still, denkt hat dem Mann es
No, you don't have Jerry, no. 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 It's the same face. It's like taking somebody out of a coffin. Ugh. Dead. No, this is not Jerry. This is not Jerry. I know this is not Jerry. The hair was more orange. The lips weren't so red. I don't think he had turquoise eyeshadow on.
Frère Jacques, tournez-vous, sonnez le latino, ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong. Surprise. Can I stay here? Can I?
Yes. Jerry.
Jerry, do you miss the stage?
Not really. I think I miss Susan more.
1947, we went to Argentina for 10 weeks. And they stayed with my mother and father, and I cried all the way to Buenos Aires. And then in 49, we went to London, also for 10 weeks. Susan is angry with me to this very day. She says if I had children, I should have given up the theater and just be a mother. That she missed me. But then when they were 7 years old, we took them along and they traveled with us all over. Didn't leave them anymore.
After our first steps on the stage in Argentina, we were immediately given so much attention and so much love by the audiences that I knew immediately that this was something special and that we were famous. I mean, wherever we went, everybody knew Mottala and Zisala.
Quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta. Jedes Volk hat Lied zu singen, lustig freilich sein. Als man durchs Herz singt, da schweigt nicht mal gesingen.
Die Welt hat feint als eure Minnes, klärchen ist kein Sach. Knippt sich in den Becken und schmechelt wieder lach.
Weil wenn ihr weint ihr allein, reicht nichts ins Leus, sag ich ach nein. Und wenn ihr lacht mit die ganze Welt, da singt das Lied, was a jeder gefällt. Quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta.
Oh, darling, we've traveled with winter clothes and summer clothes and children clothes and theater clothes and books, school books.
They have to pack everything up and travel and schlep suitcases and pack again and unpack and pack and unpack.
It's like being a gypsy. It's like being a Bedouin. Instead of putting up a tent, you go into a hotel room.
I've been in hotels all over the world, wherever there were Jews, except Russia and China.
For me, it was exciting. Every day you get your towels changed and you get the sheets made and the beds made.
It wasn't normal. Sometimes every week, sometimes every 3 days, every month, different country, different language. So you can imagine what it's like when, you wake up and you're in another room and you don't know where you are.
It was very difficult to make friends when you travel so much all the time. You can't make friends because you're always leaving. So we spent the time, the four of us, very close, intimate, and sometimes it got to be a little too much.
You're together in the daytime, you're together at the hotel, you're together rehearsal, you're together in the shows.
And always my sister and I had one room. My parents had another room, and we were like a couple.
I know it probably sounds like being in prison with the same people 24 hours a day.
But wherever we lived, whether it was a hotel or a rented apartment, when we closed the door at night, there was no more theater. The family was together.
She used to say, when we'd close the door, it was a house, it was a home, it was a family, but it can't be a family because my father is always remembering that he's Pesach Bורשטיינס and my mother is Lillian Lux. When everyone tells you, how wonderful you are, then you expect everyone to tell you how wonderful you are, including your children. Not as a parent, as a star.
La cucaracha zambarumba in der boogie dance. Crazy lady is the mambo rocking roll in the second. By the top, by popping off the seat, sit and see a bit. Or that way comes in our own, but we still be.
Anyone else my age would be going maybe to a party, to a movie. And I would have to go on stage.
We're all actors, we all act. The family has the income and then the family supports.
You want to eat, you got to work.
We would work at night in the theater, and we'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to take a bus, a school bus. We would study all day, come back in the afternoon, and then have to do the show at night.
No, not until they were 17 years old. They never worked constantly. No, we would have to be crazy to make little children work. They traveled with us. Maybe there was a certain play that they played in, but they never had a show every night. Who told you? The children? No, so he doesn't remember.
Some places in South America, we had trouble. We couldn't perform because they had laws against children performing at night. It was forbidden to have, it's like child labor. So we had to move on.
That was before we came to Israel in 54. The boat came over to Haifa. Pesach and I were crying. The tears were running down. And the children were looking, and I come from America, I didn't come from Russia. And the children were looking at us and sort of say, what are you crying about? Because I saw a big sign across the whole pier, Hadassah welcomes you. And all of the workers on the port were from the little towns, from Bialystok, from Lodz, from Vilna. And they were all yelling, hey, Paisachu, Panya Bורשטיינס. You know who this is? This is Paisachu Bורשטיינס.
Nach der Entstehung von der Medina haben umgegeben kommen Jiden her. Es sind gekommen 300.000 Jiden, Übergelebte von den Lagern, von den Vernichtungslagern, Repatriierte für Russland. Und der Euler hat gewollt Theater.
We were playing a chassan shtetl, and somebody came over and said to us that there was a young man in the back of the theater who wanted to speak to us. I came over, and this young man said, Panya Bורשטיינס, he said, I just came from Europe. My wife had a baby today, and I'm on my way to the hospital. She did not want to have the child in Europe. So I'm going to the hospital now, and it's a big storm. I don't know if I can come back to the theater to see the show. But I purposely came. I got the chills when I tell you the story. I purposely came because I want you to know that people went into the gas chambers singing, Oy vey tate, lebe dicke Futter.
I think that they would come to the theater and suddenly see, but Pesach is still here, and Lily is still here, and a chassan shtetl is still here. It wasn't all wiped away by the Nazis. This was not just the culture, it was almost the heart of the Jewish life, their family life, and it would bring back memories. It was a reaffirmation for them that life can go on after such a horror.
Wenn ihr wollt lernen, dem Judenstaat, Pintor Herzl, hat dort eine kleine Upteil von der Sprache und der Religion. Schreibt dort so, als es eine jüdische Medina, wird man mögen lesen alle Sprachen, außer Jargon. Das heißt mein Jiddisch.
קהל נכבד, בעירנו כולם לומדים עברית. לכולנו יש ספרים. האם יש מישהו מביניכם שלא לומד עברית?
We were hoping Yiddish would become the language of the country. Then we would have moved completely, and we would have all the Yiddish actors would have gone there immediately. But the language became Ivrit, And for a lot of people, it was a problem.
אני מתקדמת יפה מאוד בעברית.
גם אני.
יידיש היה ביחד באותו סל עם כל השפות הזרות. כל שפה זרה הייתה צריכה לשלם היטל עינוגים מיוחד, בנוסף למיסים הרגילים שכל התיאטראות שילמו, היה היטל מיוחד אם הצגת בשפה זרה, ואת יידיש כללו בתוך הסל הזה של שפה זרה.
Der starkste Punkt von Zionism. Liquidieren alles, was der Gules hat geschaffen. In dem Teil hat der Zionism gebracht einen Bruch, eine Katastrophe.
ומה שהיה מצחיק זה שכל אלה שנלחמו נגד יידיש היו דווקא אלה שגדלו בבתים שדיברו יידיש.
מה קרה, גברת מנדל? הראי לי נא את הבקבוק. למה לך הכף?
Wir geben 3 Löffel.
לא 3 לפל, אלא טיפות.
Was?
טרופן, את לא יודעת עברית?
לא יודע עברית, ומאן soll ich kennen עברית, Herr Sammeise?
מהר.
And we got a notice from the government that we should stop. They wanted us to close.
ואני זוכר שניפצו שמשות באמצע הצגה. אני זוכר שמעתי.
We were very angry and very hurt. We had enough, and we went back to America.
It was a time that the Catskill Mountains was a very big business for actors, you know, the summer. An actor didn't know where to go, how to do, so the Catskill Mountains gave an actor a chance to earn a good living.
We sang, we did little plays, and did reviews. Twice a week, something like that.
Most of the great comedians and singers got their start in the Catskill Mountains.
Red Buttons was here at Stevensville.
Eddie Fisher and Danny Kaye.
Everybody from Sammy Davis to Bob Hope.
He was there, Jerry Lewis.
We're gonna hitchhike up to the Catskills. We know the highway, Route 17. We're gonna hitchhike up to the mountains, up to the finest resort we have seen. Wir sehen und singen over the Zoy. Gehen auf das Zoy, gehen auf das Zoy. Starten Paris, denn gewiss jeder Boy. Wann will Seifer ist wie Schnee.
Traveling was not the way it is today. You couldn't get on a plane and 4 hours later be in the Bahamas.
No.
But you could get in a car and drive for 2-3 hours and you were
here
in the mountains.
The mountains was full of Jews at the time.
People came to stuff themselves.
Yeah.
They came to eat and eat and eat.
The whole summer they used to buy bungalows, they used to make reservations in hotels.
They used to send all the girls up to the mountains. They knew there they'd meet somebody.
Good evening. Guten Abend. Bonsoir. Spokojной noci. Buenos dias. Dobranoc. Abadiera. That's all the languages I know. Wonderful.
And so many romances and broken hearts.
And at
here in
night
the
there was the orchestra, so it started to play. People used to sit all around.
And dance all night long.
Yeah.
So there was a time that this was Las Vegas. This is the way to the nightclub. Oh, here's a swimming pool. Oh my God, look at this. Ah! Look at this. This was their indoor swimming pool. They had an indoor and an outdoor swimming pool. They used to have little synagogues in these hotels as well. They used to have all the chairs here. The tables are still here. Look at this. This was the dining room. Look at this. It's a yarmulke, kippah from the Last Supper.
The Last Supper here.
Wer bar mitzvah merief in der Teure, in Schilsengel wer sagt ihr Leid, macht die Bruche so viel der Balkoire.
My father rented a theater in New York. He advertised in the newspapers the bar and bat mitzvah of Motele and Zisele. And he put on a show. The first half was a chasen shtetl, and in the second half, he invited friends to come and perform in our honor. And my father sold out. The theater was sold out. It was a tremendous success. And that was how I celebrated my bar mitzvah.
Ich will a singen, du a Liebe. Stampa Philipp in kein Liebe. Rief den Nordus Liebe. Reib je fester auf dem Fiebel.
In Paris, they went to the American school. In Buenos Aires, when we came back, they went to the Peretz-Schule. They went to 14 schools. And so they went to the High School of Music and Arts. And you have to take a test to get in music and arts. Susan got in, and Michael failed. We were absolutely, we didn't know what to do with him. But the middle of the night, I got up, I said, Pesach, they must take him in. The principal, he was Jewish, and I said, look, they are twins, and he is more musical than she. I told them that. They gave him a test, and we were sitting outside in the car, and he came running out. I'm in! And they thanked us that we brought such a talent to the school.
Oi gewaltig wer mich schicken, lieb no Brinze Mama liege, tanze Fräser bis das Tele, wenn ich jetzt hab Baklagelle. Sing ma, hei digi digi dam, sing ma, hei digi digi dam, sing ma, hei digi digi dam, sing ma, hei digi digi dam. Ei, sis am Chaye, besser kann es sein, ei, ja vergnügen ist das rumänisch bei. Oi, los sich meidele, los sich, oi, oi, los sich meidele, los sich, oi, los sich meidele, los sich. The Mama deine hat sich auch gelost.
And I had a business at the same time, a cosmetic business, Lily of Israel. And we get a telegram to come to Israel. It was summertime. Pesach says, I had such bad experiences. I don't trust anybody. And that's why I'm not going. I don't want any aggravation. And this director from Poland, who knew us well, was after us, Gordenstein. We should play Daakomעדיאנט. And we knew him because he was working the stage with us when we were there before. So Pesach said, all right, him I will trust. And we went to Israel, all four of us. You see, my putting them in school in New York and my going in business was very unfair to Pesachke, because Pesachke couldn't do anything but theater. He couldn't make business, and I was sort of robbing his manhood. So if Pesachke was back on top again, we sat down, the family, made a meeting, and we said, children have to be where their parents are working and can make a living.
The back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Six. Mama, where's six?
שהחיינו וקימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
פעם שנייה הגענו בשנת 62, התחלנו להופיע, והצגנו במשך 3 שנים 12 הצגות ביידיש, בהצלחה אדירה.
This was the first time that they actually played grown-up roles. It was a novelty. We became very successful because of that.
Until we were in Israel, they were the stars. You know, Pesach Bורשטיין and Lillian Lux and the twins. Then it became the 4 Bורשטיין, the 4 Bורשטיין. And people didn't want to just go and see Pesach Bורשטיין, Lillian Lux again.
So for the first time on the Yiddish stage, a bride and a groom were not 65 years old. Young people were young people, and the audiences loved it.
They structured a lot of parts to give Michael more focus. They structured some parts to give me more focus. I didn't want it, and he wanted it, so he took it.
Personally, I think Susan felt that Mike was strong, and everybody said, oh, Pesach, and I was still young. Maybe she felt, I don't know, maybe she felt she wasn't as, that's a personal thing with her.
I felt that everything about the people in the theater and the whole way of life was very phony, very two-faced and very phony. My parents used to say, this is the theater. You know, this is the way people are. This is life.
And I always knew that she wanted a home, a big home, and she wanted luxuries. She loved luxuries.
I was rebellious, I think. I was more headstrong than Michael. Maybe he didn't like it also, but he knew that by saying that he did like it, he would be the favorite. That's what happened.
A young girl in the surroundings of the Yiddish theater in those days didn't have the opportunity to lead a social life. There were no young men around the Yiddish theater. They were all middle-aged or older men. She decided that if she found the right man, she would take that opportunity and leave the theater, and she did at a very early age.
It was a match by a matchmaker. What is it? A shidduch, right? You know what a shadchan is?
Yeah.
It was a shadchan thing. It wasn't love.
Really?
I'm joking with you.
He knew that I wanted to get out of the theater, and that was very, very clear, that I didn't want the theater, I didn't like it, I didn't enjoy the life. I wanted this, a house, a little house with a white picket fence and a garden, and that was it. I was 18 years old then. On the night of the wedding, they had 2 shows in, I think it was Ramat Gan, sold out. They couldn't cancel. They wouldn't cancel.
After 2 performances on Saturday, was it Saturday? In Ramat Gan, in Rama, on midnight was the wedding, after 2 performances.
And they came after the show with the makeup, the tuxedos, the costume. All of a sudden, I hear them play Yossel and Fegele.
Yossele in Fegele, and Susan is crying, Mommy, not that, no, not that.
The musicians from the theater came, they were the musicians. And I had to go to the chippah to the music of Yossel and Fegele. And that broke me up. That really broke me up.
Yossele in Fegele. Sie lieben sich wie Schläume mit Schulames. Yossele in Fegele. A Bruche sind in Seefahrtatelane.
Yossele, wo strachst du wegen Fegele, wenn ich bin neben dir? Ich will dich wieder verwiegen mit der süßen Schluftnigen, pink da so wie ein Buch. Gedenkst, Yossele, gedenkst.
I have like a blackout because it was so traumatic. I don't remember details. I think I was crying, but that's about it. I knew I was losing a dear friend and a partner and someone who I could trust and confide in all my secrets. She knew everything about me. So
the feeling, I think, was for the first time I was actually alone with him. because I had never been alone with him. It was always my parents were around, my brother was around, the actors were around, the stagehands were around, the crew, the musicians. It was strange being alone with him for the first time.
Lucky we were on the plane. She almost changed her mind.
The Megillah was a very special artistic production, and it was very different from everything that we ever did before. Usually we did musical comedies.
I wanted better theater, and I played American theater from time to time, and I was anxious to play better theater. And this was a great opportunity.
But my father was very worried about that. He didn't want to change. You know, when you have a sure thing, why tamper with success?
You know, our audience that used to come, the Yidden and the Yiddinis, when they came to see Megillah the first month, they said, "Ay, wusse dus? Bורשטיינס klebt an us." The actors get dressed on the stage, they can't go in the dressing room. And we thought that we're going to have to close.
And after a month of performing, my father said, "What did you do to me? You brought us into a catastrophe." And we used to perform for 2 rows of people in the audience. And then, after a month, they had a premiere, an opening night, and invited the press.
המשורר והסופר איציק מנגר הגיע לארץ והוא נכח כאן בהצגת המגילה מפרי עיתו. בהצגה חגיגית שנערכה לכבוד האורח נכחו אומנים, סופרים ואישי ציבור.
And when we finished, hats began to be thrown in the air. I never saw it in my life. And they were standing on the chairs and they were applauding and they were screaming. And then we realized what we had.
The Israeli press came out the next day with the greatest reviews that have ever come out in Israel. And the next day, from that moment on, the Megillah became the sensation of the country.
They brought us to Broadway with it. We played Megillah over 400 times. What shall I tell you? In my dreams, I see it. Teddy Kollek made us a performance for the Knesset.
And we were a legend since then. And they called me a genius. Motele the genius.
גמרתי הצגה בהבימה, שיחקנו אז את פאוסט של גוטה, אני שיחקתי את מפיסטו, ולאחר סוף ההצגה, כמובן לאן הולכים?
We were sitting in Kassit, in Chatzkel's Kassit.
חצקל איש כסית פנה אליי ואומר לי, בקר, אתה יודע מי נמצא פה היום? מי זה? פסח כבורשטיין, בוא אני אציג אותו לפניך, תראה אותו. פסח כבורשטיין.
And he said, Adon Bורשטיין, let me introduce to you Yisrael. He said, just a minute, I will introduce myself. He thought it was cute.
ניגשתי אליו בחיוך שפוך על פניי ואמרתי לו, פסח כבורשטיין, אני מכיר אותך מהרבה שנים. אני גנבתי ממך את המחזה החסן אינשטטל, ומכרתי אותו לויטלר, בת 500 זלוטס. אם הוא לא קיבל שבץ באותו רגע, זה היה פלא. עיניו כאילו יצאו מחוריהן, הביט עליי במין זעם אדיר ואומר, אתה לא מתבייש לספר לי איזה חיים שלמים. אני סוחב את אני הבינותי פתאום שעשיתי דבר שלא יעשה.
במסיבת עיתונאים שנערכה בעיירה היהודית שנבנתה בגבעתיים, החלו צילומי הסרט שני קוני למל בשיטת סינמסקופ ובצבעים. מפיק הסרט מרדכי נבון והבמאי ישראל בקר.
איך מבקשים סליחה? איך מבקשים מחילה? הגיעה לידי האפשרות לעשות זאת. הלוא את מייק בורשטיין אני רוצה שהוא ישחק את שני קוני למל. אבל מי ישחק את הבעל העגלה, את שיאלה? ואז פתאום זה הבזיק בראשי. זה בשביל פסח כבורשטיין.
פה זה התחיל. הוא מגיע עם הרכב משדה התעופה, עם הצ'ולן שלו, אתה זוכר? והם הביאו אותו פה בריקוד, כולם רקדו להם. די 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 די. היו זמנים.
שלוש הצגות בכורה חגיגיות נערכו לסרט שני קוני למל, האחת בירושלים, השנייה בגבעתיים והשלישית בתל אביב. בגמר ההצגה נפגשו יוצרי שני קוני למל ומשתתפיו עם ראש הממשלה.
It was like what happened to Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate. I mean, overnight, I was a star. And I told my parents, I have to move on. Because if I stay in the Yiddish theater, 10 years later, I would have been a has-been with no audience and no theater.
And so we went ahead and we did a play without Mike. And we had trouble. The audience came to the box office. They said, was, der Sinn spielt nicht. Und Mike. So we said, does Perlman give you with a son? Does Wittler give you with a son? We are the same like we were before our children came.
The impresarios in Israel, the producers, said no, if Mike, they used this pressure. They said if Mike, and I was a big star then with Kuni Lemel, so they said, okay, we'll work with you if you bring Michael in.
We had trouble. We had to leave Israel because the box office fell flat. They were expected that Mike must be in the show with us. So we really suffered.
They came to me and they said, if you'll come and work with us, we can do another show. And it was, for me, it was, the most difficult thing to say, no, I can't.
He had different ideas. He got married in Israel. He had a family in Israel. And when you get married, you listen to your wife, not to your father and mother anymore.
For a long time, we had a very difficult personal relationship because they were extremely angry with me for abandoning them.
My jüdische Mame, nicht du kein Besseres auf der Welt.
We were, a very emotional family, and we came from Yiddish melodrama, and in the Yiddish melodramas, the son doesn't leave the mother, Those things don't happen. You don't leave your Yiddish mama and go off with, with a shikse.
The Mike Bernstein Show!
אומרים אני, אינני אני, על כן אני נבהל. כי אם אני, אינני אני, אז מי אני בכלל?
I felt always that I was kind of a little bit embarrassed as a child that I was in the Yiddish theater and not in the Spanish theater in Argentina or the American theater here. It was like a second-class citizen. You know? So I always wanted to be mainstream like everybody else. Because even Kuni Lemmel was still a Yiddish character. And I had to get away from it so that I could establish myself as a mainstream actor and not get that image of a Yiddish performer.
Good morning, starshine. The earth says hello. You twinkle above us, we twinkle below. Good morning, starshine. You lead us along, my love and me, as we sing our...
I started getting invitations to do radio programs and television and films, variety shows. I've done Ladino and I've done Mizrahi and children festivals. And I wanted more. And then I got an opportunity to do Barnum on Broadway. I became a star, not just for the Yiddish audience, but for everybody. And so I felt that I finally was, you know, equal to everybody else.
In Jahr 1985, ein Jahr vor Pesach gestreut, hat er bekommen den Goldfadenpreis von der Jdischer Kulturgesellschaft. Und zu allem in seiner Überraschung hat er gesungen und gepfiffen, pinkt wie in den jungen Jahren.
He was my idol. I watched him, and whatever he did, I tried to imitate. And I learned everything I know I learned from him. But the only thing I could never learn to do was whistle like he whistled.
Frère Jacques, tournez-vous, tournez-vous. I miss him because I never got to really know him. Ding, ding, dong. Ding, ding, dong. I didn't get to know him as a father, as a person.
He wasn't feeling well all night. It was Sunday. All day long, he wasn't feeling well. And Mike had to leave the next day for Israel. He had concerts. So he said to Mike, he prepared everything for him. He said, you're going now, he said, and when you're doing a Jewish concert, some people are complaining to me that you sing the same songs over and over again. He said, I want you to sing my songs. I want to give you all my material. And he prepared it. But all day long that Sunday, he was not feeling well. I shall never forget the ambulance ride. Whenever I hear an ambulance in the street, I can't listen. Because all the way to the hospital, he kept yelling, oi, Lily, I can't breathe. I says, we're almost there. And when the doctor took him in, the doctor was there already when we came. He came out and he said to me, I won't fool you, Mrs. Bernstein, it's no good.
And he had a pipe down his throat, so he couldn't even talk. And, you know, lucky for me, I was already, you know, into Kabbalah. So we used telepathy. And I really believe that my father and I got to know each other. I had 6 days with my father.
And I had a concert in Washington the next Sunday afternoon. And it was then, I think it was $2,000 or $2,500, I remember. And he kept writing on the paper to the children, Mama must go to Washington.
I fell asleep for an hour or so, and the phone rang, and she said, "Come quickly." And I threw something on, and I ran in the rain to the hospital. But when I got there, he was already gone.
Susan says that he sent Mike away and he sent me away because he knew that we couldn't take it. She helped him to die.
And it was just before Pesach, and he was born on Pesach, and he died just before Pesach. And he was Pesach. For the world, he was Pesach.
Mir darf euch nicht bringen, ihr Sinn. Ist du mit mir.
Wir darf ihm nicht bringen, ist du mit mir.
Wir darf ihm nicht bringen, ist du mit mir.
Jossele, kiss mal, Jossele. Wenn du. Sir, ich kann nicht warten, Chevre. Es ist das Ende von der Vorstellung. Bla, bla, bla. Es ist so fad Zagas, das Ende von der Pjesse. Wir können nicht schleppen, die ganze Mainze.
Everybody that's here I knew when I was a child. I can write a book. Who was who? All my friends are here.
This is the Yiddish theater.
Yes.
אבא, אם הוא היה חי השנה, הוא היה בן 100. והמפיק בישראל, שהיה מפיק של אבא הרבה שנים, הציע בואו נעשה את ההצגה הכי מוכרת שלו, החסן שטייטל.
This is the composer of a Chasen Shtetl, Hermann Woll. And this is Boris Tomaszewski, the great Boris Tomaszewski, who brought my father to America in 1924. You know what this is? Oy vey tate. That's the actual notes from a Chasen Shtetl. Oy vey tate, we put this on. Da da dee da. Dee-da-dee-da-da-da.
מתחתן עם אמא שלי. אני מתחתן עם אמא שלי.
The beauty of it is that we are playing it just as Pesach directed it from the very beginning. We don't change anything.
זה דבר שבמשך 60 שנה זה הוכח שככה זה עובד. וניסינו לשנות פה ושם, ובאמת זה לא עבד וחזרנו למקור.
Can you play Molière any other way? Can you sing Aida in any other intonations? You got to sing it the way it was written. And that's what this is. It's a Jewish classical opera.
Komödianschig bin ich, jeder kennt mich hier. Und Kleider, Burbis und Schier, jeder zappt mein Blick. Bratjager schreiten auf mir,
das Herz zieht weh.
Ich kannte jeder, wenn ich besser was sagt mir, mein Blick in den Himmel geschreit. Quanta la gusta, la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, la gusta, quanta la gusta, 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 la gusta.
Weiß ist am Chaye, besser kann es sein, ja vergnügen ist das rumänisch Wein. Lass sich Mädel, lass sich, lass sich Mädel, lass sich, lass sich Mädel, lass sich. Warum? Die Mama deine hat sich auch gelassen. Eis ist am Chaye, besser kann es sein, ja vergnügen ist das rumänisch Wein.
La cucaracha sambarumba in der Boogie-Woogie-Tanz. Crazy lazy ist im Mambo, Rock'n'Roll in Schatzetanz. Heute im Kopf ein Popsikon, beschießt und sitzt es wie ein Fisch. Und das Wein tanzt mit einer Rumba, schritt so wie ein Kaschignisch. Ai, 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 ai.
sich reingedreht, ich halt nicht heut. Hab sich reingedreht, bedreht denn sich heut. Hab sich reingedreht, in Amerika gekommen. Im Baum mein Taten sein geliebte Züge nehmen. Hab sich reingedreht, ich halt nicht heut. Ich seh so, wie drehte sich hereut. Ach,